been manifesting something and at first you felt so good about it? You were like, I've been visualizing, I'm gonna do this, I've been doing that, and you just knew it was gonna happen. But after a little while, you noticed that nothing in your reality was changing. And so then your mind starts saying things to you like, what if this isn't gonna happen? Or there are no signs that your manifestation is coming to fruition. This isn't working. Nothing is changing. Maybe I'm just being unrealistic. You might also think, God doesn't really obviously want this for me. Or maybe my manifestation is too big. And before you know it, the belief you had starts to crumble. A lot of times people will think that kind of thinking is their true intuition. But what they don't realize is that it's their ego. So our ego looks at our current reality, and in an effort to try to protect me from disappointment, it will convince me to stop believing in something that I can't see. And that's the moment where a lot of people unknowingly block their own manifestations because they start trusting their doubt more than their belief. So in this video, I'm going to explain what the ego actually is, how it can quietly block your manifestation, and how you can recognize when it's happening so you don't let it sabotage what you're trying to create. Before we begin, I want to introduce myself. My name is Wendy. I teach real-world manifesting that is practical, grounded, and effective. If you are like me and find that manifestation is a process for you and learning, and you like my style, hit the like button. And if you want some clear direction, schedule a coaching session with me. So let's talk about what the ego actually is, because we really need to understand what is ego. So ego is just a part of you that's really trying to protect you. It's a part of your mind that wants to protect you. And essentially, its job is to keep you safe by analyzing your situations, looking at past experiences, and trying to prevent disappointment or pain. So think about that. Your ego is relying heavily on what it can see right now and what has already happened before. So if your ego is always looking to the past to understand today, that's not going to work if you're changing, and your manifestation is going to be completely different than what you have experienced in the past. But manifestation, when we look at what is that, it requires you to believe in something before you have physical proof of it, right? So ego says, hey, let's look at the right here, right now, and let's use the past to compare it. And manifestation is saying, we're going to believe it before we even have physical proof of it. So right there, there's a conflict, right? And your desire might be saying, this is possible. But your ego is saying, yeah, well, I'll believe it when I see it. So your ego is going to focus on your current reality. And that's a big block for us because ego is constantly focusing on what's happening in the present moment. And I think a lot of us are looking to the 3D, like, okay, where's some evidence that this is working, right? So an example might be, like, let's say you're manifesting a relationship, or you could even be manifesting like a car or a job. And at first you have all this excitement, but then the ego starts scanning your environment and looking for evidence, and nothing's changed yet. So there will be things that it will whisper to you, like, see, nothing's happening. If this were working, there would be signs. I've said it to myself many times. You're just setting yourself up to be disappointed. So essentially, the ego interprets the absence of evidence as proof that it isn't working. But we all know manifestation does not work that way. And many times things are shifting behind the scenes before you ever even see them in your physical reality. So, your ego, in an effort to protect you, is actually sabotaging you, right? Another thing that the ego loves is control. It wants to know exactly how something will happen and exactly when it will be happening. It can create rules like if that doesn't happen or if this doesn't happen by next week, it's not meant to be. If they don't reach out first, then it's over. If this opportunity doesn't show up the way I expect it, then it's failure. But you guys, the truth is that manifestations often come through very unexpected paths. And sometimes they come through people. You don't anticipate opportunities, providing you opportunities that you would have never planned for or thought of. Or sometimes just the timing is different, but it works out better than you could have ever imagined. So when the ego tries to control the entire process, it's going to create tension and resistance instead of allowing things to unfold naturally. One of the more subtle ways that the ego might interface with manifestation is by tying your self-worth to the results. And I've had this happen many times. You know, for example, I'll feel chosen. I'll feel chosen when my person wants me, or I feel worthy, or I'll feel better, or I'll feel valued because they now love me. Maybe you might say, I'll feel successful when my business grows, or I'll feel secure when I have more money. But when your happiness or self-worth depends on the manifestation showing up, the energy behind it becomes rooted in lack. So instead of coming from a place of confidence and trust, the underlying message becomes, I need this to happen in order to feel okay. And that energy can actually create more pressure around the situation. Another moment when ego becomes very loud is when time passes and you don't see immediate results. And typically, this is where most people give up on their manifestation. Your ego might say things like, if it were meant to happen, it would have already happened. You're wasting your time. This is unrealistic. But sometimes, delays don't mean something isn't happening. They just simply mean that things are still aligning in ways that you cannot see, like in the background. So your perspective is limited to what's right in front of you. But the truth is, life is often moving pieces around behind the scenes in ways that only make sense later. Like sometimes, don't you ever have something where you're like, oh yeah, and you look back and you're like, all these things had to come in place for this specific thing to happen. So when that happens, it's helpful. For me, I wanted to get out of a specific career field. And I was just like, I want out. But I never, ever could take the leap. I applied for so many jobs, never got them. And I kept saying like, what is going on? And it wasn't until set situations occurred that forced me out. I mean, my desire to leave became so strong that I couldn't think of anything else all the time. I just wanted out. And to me, it didn't matter anymore. It didn't matter if I took a cut in pay. It didn't matter if it wasn't the best job. I just needed out. So I had been manifesting, getting into a new career field and wanting to make more money and have a better life. And the current career field that I loved, but it just wasn't beneficial to me, kept getting worse and worse and worse. Until finally, it just pushed me to a point where I was like, no matter what, I'm leaving. So take away from that things can be happening in the background that will force you to do something that you wouldn't normally do. So that timing was not my timing. It was definitely like, I would have never have left my job at the time I did. I would have never done anything. So big takeaway again that I'm saying, please just remember when things are happening in the background, don't assume that nothing's happening. Assume and know that the universe is working everything out in your favor. All right. So recognizing the ego voice is just really important. And one of the most helpful things you can do when you're manifesting something is to learn to recognize when your ego is speaking. And that's hard sometimes, right? But these words, there's only 4, will really help you, okay? So the ego's voice usually creates doubt, fear, urgency, and a need for proof. Your ego wants certainty and control. But as I just explained, manifestation requires something different, right? Things can happen at a different time. Manifestation requires the ability to hold a belief even when the physical evidence hasn't appeared yet. So a powerful shift that you can make is realizing that you don't have to eliminate the ego, because that's, first of all, not possible, and we need our ego. But what you can do is become aware of it. When your mind starts saying things like, this isn't working, or I knew this was gonna happen, or it's been 3 days, they should have texted by now, or it's been 2 weeks, you haven't gotten a new job, you probably just need to stay where you're at. Maybe this is where you're supposed to be. You can say, like, literally put yourself on pause and recognize that that is just your ego trying to protect you from disappointment. But protection and possibility don't always exist, you guys, in the same space. Sometimes creating something new requires you to move beyond what your ego considers realistic, right? So when you notice those thoughts coming up, instead of fighting them, because typically we either want to fight with them, we want to tell them they're wrong, you're kind of like, I've been doing so good, I don't want to hear this garbage. And so you start to fight with it, the voice and the thoughts that are running through your head. Instead, what you can do is just acknowledge them and return your focus to what you want to create. So think of it like this. Your ego may have an opinion, but it does not get the final decision, right? You get to decide what you believe is possible for your life. And the truth is, at the end of the day, manifestation isn't about having perfect thoughts or never experiencing doubt. It's just about recognizing when your ego is trying to convince you that something isn't possible and choosing not to let that voice define your reality is a benefit. All right, guys, I hope you found this video helpful. I'm sure that you did. I really hope that your big takeaway is that your ego is really there to protect you, and it wants to be in control. So anytime you start feeling doubt or fear, know that that's just your ego. And we all fall short sometimes, and we all get stressed out, and we all start to think, is this ever gonna happen? But if you can acknowledge that your ego is stepping in the way, half the battle's won, right? All right, guys, so I love you. Have a beautiful day. Remember, you deserve everything in the world. This manifestation, regardless of how big or how small it is, you deserve it. You deserve that life. You got to fight for it. Please do not give up. I know all too well, every manifestation coach knows too well. They know, that's why they're creating these videos. It's hard. All right, kick some ass, and have a beautiful day.